Welcome back, boils and ghouls, to another episode of the Indie Spotlight, the place where the independent creators do it right. Tonight, we're going to be looking at Helm Studios Presents Battle Skull. This is a pretty interesting publication by a dude named Tom Travers. I talked with Tom. We're going to do a live chat after this. If you guys are interested, make sure you guys tune into the Instagram channel. And we will be doing a live hangout session and talking about this. This has got 3 stories and then some other stuff in it. And we're just going to be taking like a little bit of a deeper look at this. I talked about it in the most recent mailbag episode, but this was one of the ones I wanted to take a few minutes longer and really look at and pull apart because I thought it was fun. It's a big world building book. He actually talks about that. Tom talks about that in the introduction, how this has been a long time coming. He's got a lot of ideas. He introduces a bunch of characters. I was a big fan of the art. It was fun. And that's not always something I can say for these books, unfortunately. A lot of guys try really hard, but it's not, and it's nobody's fault, man. You just have to do stuff for a long time, and eventually, or you get lucky like Tom did, because I don't know if he's done a whole heck of a lot as far as published work before this, but this is fun. So in this world, basically he talks about like this little setup is there's a cataclysmic event that's plunged the world back into darkness and anarchy, and the only real way that you can make a name for yourself is through killing other people. And like Battle Skull is the best there is at that. And these kids are like hanging out talking about that, talking about possible. It kind of reminded me actually of the early Max issue where those kids are talking about the possible origins of the Max. And except, minus the part where the Max is like, no, he's like a homeless bum because I'm Sam Keith. Kind of like that Wizard issue. I'm sure this is incidental and I'm way reading into this because I'm just a crazy person. But like, if you remember, the bully shows up and those kids are talking about it and they're on the front porch, and here Warthog shows up, this huge warthog animal. Of course, Battle Skull kicks the donkey crap out of him for a little bit, and you're like, oh, okay. And he stomps him and then he shoots laser beams out of his eyes. Like, one of the things that's funnest about this book is not only does he not give you an origin, which is cool because you don't need that for everything. It doesn't make things more meaningful or important. And it's not always necessary for world building either, in my opinion. But he seems to just develop things as it goes along. Like, he shoots laser beams out of his eyes and you're like, oh, okay. And later on, he's literally dead and buried, and he pops up out of the grave and they're like, you can't kill something that's already dead. You're like, all right. Learning stuff. This kid totally reminds me, maybe I suppose I'm reading into stuff. Anybody else remember the Burger King kids? Those glasses, man. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but he's like, tune in and check out our wacky adventures. And they're the trash can dwellers, which I think is an obvious, homage to the Garbage Pail Kids. But this is really fun. It reminds me of like skateboarding art from the late 80s and early 90s, and I'm super obsessed with, like Jimbo. Reanimated Beast, this one's pretty crazy. One of the things I do like about this book, well, I like a lot of things about this book, but one of the things I most enjoyed about this book is he kind of goes back to that fun old comic trope of giving things names that are actually other words, but just changing up the lettering a little bit. And Comatose is the place where this takes place. I just think it's little things like that I enjoyed about this book. It's fun to read. I'm seeing like Mum-Ra, maybe some Mummies Alive, if anyone remembers that. I get the feeling Tom watched a lot of the same like animated cartoons that I did. It's awesome. So basically the premise is there are these 2 mad scientists who are pitting their creations against one another in a death battle, and whoever wins gets this stuff called necro sludge. And necro sludge, because these guys are in a world that's like halfway between life and halfway between death. They're not really alive, they're not really dead, so necro sludge keeps them alive, and they battle their monsters that they create to get necro sludge to stay alive. So it's this like, you know, self-propagating cycle. Dr. Dead and Captain Carcass, great stuff. Mummy Shark and I believe Rexatron is his name, battling it out. Rexatron is obviously the reigning champion, and he eventually obliterates him with some huge laser beams out of his eyes and just blows him apart. His disintegration beam, I believe, actually. Okay, so what I found really interesting too is that super fun, right? Kind of, it's light. It's especially the very first story in here has almost like William Messner Loeb's feel to it. Again, I suppose maybe just calling back because I'm obsessed with the Max, but I can see a lot of stuff going on here. Like this pit fight reminded me of, man, DreamWorks maybe? I think it was called Igor. I loved that movie, and that was kind of one of the big premises of it, but it was super fun, and that reminded me of this story. This, like, and I can pick out a lot of other, like, little fun nods and homages and stuff going on. This feels very much like Tom Travers, and I think also it shows that while it's you know, it can be an outlandish universe, there's an actual aesthetic and a tone and a feel that's being put forth that can also get like super pontifical. It opens with this wonderful poem about this foreboding castle and how the wandering traveler will be tempted by the castle and become wise too late. Not really sure what's happening. He's walking through. There's also a lot of visual storytelling going on here, which I super appreciate because this is easy to tell what's going on. There's a story being told in the panels. Again, not always something I can say. Lonely Tower, basically there's only a couple lines of dialogue. I think this is the only dialogue coming up here. He's like, dude, please help me. And he's like, doesn't even say anything because he's Battle Skull, man. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to let you go. Knocks him out of his chains and he's like, thank you. And he transforms into the creature that we see foreshadowed there, which is cool. He turns in this huge, evil, monstrous creature. And he actually gets so big, he like blows the building apart. And if you notice, when he first came in, there's a large like sentinel type character positioned right here. And as soon as he comes out, this other sentinel awakens and they do battle. And they become frozen again in like whatever it is encased in stone. It's not entirely clear, but what is clear is it doesn't just have to be like large splash pages of fights and that kind of thing. There's something going on that I think probably Tom is going to get into exploring with in this book. This story was really nice. It sits at the end, breaks stuff up nicely. It also kind of shows that like Battle Skull inhabits an actual world, right? Populated by other characters that we'll probably eventually get to know, but it's cool because it's world building and it adds to the tone and the aesthetic of what you're reading. And it's also tonally, the art is a little bit different. If you pay attention for each story, I think it's pretty interesting how Tom suits his actual approach, not only to composition, but to the actual like line work to each story. Like this is much more refined and clean than we've seen in this book. There are no like large frayed lines. This is clean. It's refined. It's been worked down. The other stuff in this, and I really love Tom's style, but the other stuff is very much like I can see Joe Madeira a lot in the faces and kind of designs. Same with Chris Bachalo, I think is how you say his name. We all know who I'm talking about. But there's a lot of guys like, you know, like Bill Sienkiewicz maybe, and Scotty Young in the line work, the frenetic line work that's getting laid down here. I even see some like later, I like it much more than the off-the-wall Neil Adams stuff. But I can see like when Neil Adams went into that completely like over-rendering phase and you just saw lines everywhere. Like there's something energetic and really cool about it. If you get on to Tom's page, his Instagram page, you'll see a lot of pages that he's done and pinups and stuff that are ballpoint pen. And I really like the way that feel translates onto the page. I'm excited to see how he further translates and integrates that, because feels like this one is like way more, the line work is super heavy. You can see exactly what I'm talking about with the super, super loose line work in this one, I think especially. I think probably, you know, he's experimenting and learning as he goes with each story, because it feels like he took that and he refined it a little bit down, got rid of a little bit of it, but kept all of the stuff that worked, and then put that into Reanimated Beast. And then for the Tower story, he definitely just went in a totally different direction. I really respect that. And the very last, there's like a 1-page story that we finish off, but it does have a fairly interesting reveal of basically like, I think Battle Skull is immortal, whatever his origins might be. There is literally no way to kill him, which is fairly interesting. This dude is hanging out in a graveyard. If you read it, it becomes quite clear that he's dug a grave and he's slamming a headstone in. It's like this big write-up, well, not big, but it's a, you know, a lot of lead up and talking about how this guy's name is Digger and he did great battle and he killed his foe. And normally this place is super quiet, but not today. And it's finally quiet again, but perhaps not. And the Digger learns you cannot kill witches already dead. I think it's cool. This book has an interesting feel. I love the 8-bit pinup in the back. I guess actually probably more like 16-bit. Anyway, I love the pinup in the back. There's a couple of real nice pinups throughout here. Cheeks Calloway here. I know there's another one. Yeah, right here. Tom's stuff is like really interesting. And like he says in the introduction to this book, you know, he is looking to build a world. He's going to build on this. He wants to do something with this stuff. This just came out not too long ago. It's got a 2022 release date on it. So not long at all ago. God almighty, this year is coming to a close. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Could have been 10 months ago at this point. Geez. It's available. It's out there. Tom is working on stuff. I really would love to see him get out some more stuff. I'm interested to see where he goes with his art. I'm also interested to talk to him about his influences, because I don't know if I'm super reading into this, but man, I just felt like, and totally not him trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to play in on nostalgia factors and try to be cool and call back to all that stuff from the 90s. Like, no, this felt very much like from the gut and off of the hip in a lot of ways, which is way cooler. To me, like when that stuff is done well, it's awesome. When it's pandering, but yeah, I highly recommend you guys checking out Tom Travers. Horned Helm Studios presents #1. Hopefully, we'll be seeing more issues of this. If you guys enjoyed, remember 15 minutes after this video is done here on YouTube, join me over on Instagram. And we will be having a live hangout and kind of interview and talk with Tom. You guys can ask him questions, and I'll make sure to have like all the available information that you need as far as picking up stuff as well. So thanks for tuning in as always. Thanks so much. And I hope you all enjoyed, maybe even saw something you want to pick up. If you want your book featured in the Indie Spotlight series, just get into my contact information and drop me a line, and I will get you information about how to get your stuff onto the channel. So thank you so much again to Tom for sending this in. It's been an awesome experience checking this out. I can't wait to share more books with you guys. Got a ton more of these episodes lined up this week. So I hope you all are enjoying, and I will talk to you all soon. If you did enjoy what you saw, make sure you hit that like button. Think about getting in the comment section below and letting me know if you really enjoyed what you saw. Make sure you Hulk smash that subscribe button. If you do that, make sure you ding the little notification bell so you never miss another video or premiere. Again, if you feel like you're in a position to help the channel grow, think about using the link in the description below to sign up for my Patreon page. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to tons of behind the scenes posts, updates, exclusive content like uncut interviews, and you can even get your name in the credits. If you want to support the channel, if Patreon is not your thing, have no fear. You can finally sign up for membership right here on YouTube. Just hit the little join button and make sure to select the tier and the perks that fit you best. If that's not enough, you can also make one-time donations towards specific goals or just tip the channel using the Ko-Fi link in the description below. And you can even pick up your very own JerkComic shirts like the ones you see on the screen now. As always, this video was brought to you by the Jerk Broadcasting Service, as well as generous grants from the Patreon, Ko-Fi, and YouTube members you see on the screen now. I seriously want to thank every single one of you that supports the channel and helps make these videos possible, with a super special thanks to my loyal Wednesday Warriors, Channel 10, Chasen, Clinton Salvini, and Mike Dolan. I really hope the quality and content is getting better, and I can't wait to see where this next year takes us with your continued support. Thank you again for helping this crazy dream of mine become a reality, and for sticking with me. I hope you all enjoyed, maybe even learned something, and as always, I really, truly, and honestly ask only two things. Keep it in those local shops, and keep reading comics.